nobody would give me an interview for whatever reason. And I kind of gave up on it. And I said to my wife, I can either try and keep on applying for things with no idea of when I would ever get a job, or I can just say, screw it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to start my own. And that's what I did. It like screwed me up a little bit because it started messing with my confidence and messing with like what I thought I built. Oh, am I not cut out for this? But then it rained a couple times and people started calling me and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is just the weather. Sometimes the complete circumstances are out of your control and you just got to work, like keep on pushing forward. Micro adjustments are important. You can't just be so hard set on something. You got to be really flexible, and it's all about proving the concept with as little investment and work as possible. And then once you prove the concept, then you actually make it real. I started up this business with like $400. That's it. In the short term, you know, you got to be okay with doing some things that are intensive, labor intensive, and you know, just like anybody who starts a business, you literally got to wear all the hats, and you got to be okay with that. And eventually, you won't have to do that. Just having the ability or desire or want, and then trying it, puts you light years ahead of other people. Investing in yourself is one of the most important things you can do, for sure. I have not had one outcome where I've invested in myself and it turned out poorly, ever.
Welcome to The Ambiguous Truth. I'm your host, Anthony Mistretta. If you like the show, there's a couple of ways that you can do very, very, very simple things that help me out tremendously. Firstly, tap or click follow or subscribe. Super easy. It is literally one button, but it lets me know that people are engaged and listening. Secondly, rate it 5 stars. That helps get it in front of more people. Thirdly, share it with a friend. If there's an episode that you like or, just show in general, please share it. Add it to your story, message a friend with a link to the episode. Would genuinely appreciate some shares. Lastly, comment or message me. I want to make sure that this show is continually adding value to your life, continually helping you navigate some challenges. But in order for me to do that, I need to get some feedback from you and understand if I'm headed in the right direction or I need to change course. That's all. Thank you so very much for listening. I genuinely appreciate it. On to the show. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Before we get into kind of what you're doing now, I would love to just start with your story. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know you came from a very Christian household. I'm sure we can relate on that. But give us a little bit of context so that can kind of set the stage for kind of the direction you're moving in now.
How far back are we going?
As far as you want.
Okay. Let's see. I grew up on Long Island, New York. That is a great place to grow up. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Hard to get off though. Once you're there and you decide to stay there, you're there for life. That was not me. I would have never been that way.
Why is that?
God, I don't know. I never really thought about it. Maybe it's because I've been trying to escape family issues. I'm pretty driven. I've never really done what people have expected me to do. I've always done what I wanted to. Okay, so Long Island, grew up there, very Christian background. I'm not religious anymore. In fact, I don't know if I ever was actually religious.
Understood.
And let's see. Family didn't really do anything, because my dad was a workaholic. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Me and my brother both went to school at a great public school, one of the best in the country. And you can actually look it up. Ward Melville, like one of the best statistically in the country. I don't know. I did everything I could to stay out of the house. When growing up, there was a lot going on, and I did almost anything I could. I played sports. I acted. I sang. I was editor-in-chief of the yearbook. I was always out of the house. Didn't really get in any trouble. One time I got into a little bit of trouble. I don't really want to go down that path.
Okay.
But let's see. And yeah, I don't know. It's just growing up was really nice. Besides the family part. And eventually I decided to, go to design school because I was editor-in-chief of the yearbook. I got into art. I really liked being able to express myself, both through acting and singing and all the different venues. It was great. And then I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, which is a very good design school. And I studied communications design or graphic design, where I, and worked my ass off. It was everybody I talked to is like, oh, design school sounds so different. It legitimately is different because a lot of schooling in college, it's like you take a course, you learn something, and then you just kind of stash away in your mind and go about the rest of your life. Design school, they literally pin the students against each other to try and outcompete one another, and to create the best designs. And you could I personally did 15-hour days every day, even on the weekends. I didn't really go to parties. I didn't really do much of anything besides working on my designs. Did that really get me anywhere? Not, design is a very competitive field. A lot of people go into it thinking they're going to be phenomenal at it and that they're going to like work at these amazing firms like Gray or Ogilvy or whatever. And I was not one of them. I was not good enough. So I ended up moving back home after college for a couple of years. And I got some small gigs, small design, full-time jobs on Long Island, that weren't the best. But it inevitably led me to understand that just design was not for me.
Mm.
Not because I didn't love it, not because I still don't do it today to create my own brands or anything like that. But in terms of making a living off of it, it was not it. So I did a boot camp. I did a software engineering boot camp where I actually lived with my girlfriend at the time she lived in Queens. I went to this boot camp and, it was a General Assembly boot camp. So it was like 3 months of just nonstop, 24 hours a day learning. And immediately after I graduated, I doubled my salary, which was crazy. Absolutely crazy. I didn't think I was going to be making that kind of money anytime soon. But I did. I went from like making 50 to like 90, 100, very like that. And then it just kept on going. It was phenomenal. I moved on to JP Morgan after a while. I then moved on to Spotify. And that was my last full-time actual corporate job, before life got in the way. And I was there for 5 years, where I worked on products that helped with their IPO and different licensing, a lot of money stuff, a lot of custom accounting software stuff that I don't really know how deeply I can go into. It's not very interesting.
And you were doing software and product separately, different times?
So I got into the company as a software engineer, and then I transitioned over to product management, because I honestly just got exhausted from having to learn new software things all the time. It's an incredibly evolving field. In fact, I hear from people about AI and having to constantly keep up with that and how it's just a total drain. And that's just an extension of software engineering.
Yeah.
Right? So I went into product to try and escape that. Well, I don't know if I actually escaped the burnout. I'll say I got burned out, for sure. And then I did product for 3 years, again, working on the custom accounting software stuff. A lot of data, a lot of really complicated processes, a lot of rerunning data that's 18 months old and for new updated data that has come in. Just a lot of stuff. But what eventually happened was, I think it was, when were those tech layoffs? 2022 or 2023? 2023. And Spotify then proceeded to lay off about 20% of their company. I was included in that, along with most of the 3 teams that I was working with. And then this happened right before I had my child being born. So what happened after that was I got a nice severance package. I had a bunch of stock options. Like, I was good. I was like, I told my wife, I said, will take care of the baby until she gets into daycare. And then I'm going to figure out what I'm doing next after that. So that's exactly what I did. I realized that taking care of a baby without boobs is incredibly difficult. Especially when your wife is working full time and she's in meetings. Mm-hmm. So, learning curve for myself, because I've never had a baby before, but I always grew up, that men and women can do all the same things, all that stuff. And having a child made me quickly realize that that is not actually true. So, because, when she wants some boobs, she's not going to take a bottle, and there's nothing you can do about it. Except try and console her for the couple hours while your wife's in a meeting. So I did that. We got through it. After our daughter got into daycare, I started to learn stock market stuff. In fact, I started to learn it before my daughter was in daycare, because all I could do was really like sit and watch YouTube. So I sat and watched YouTube, held my daughter, started learning stock market. Great time to do it because AI boom was going. And so that worked out really well for me. But it was it was very draining mentally, because you're watching things go up and down and you're like, oh my God.
Were you day trading?
I was trying to. Yeah. At the beginning, I was following these YouTube gurus, right? And some of it worked sometimes, it didn't work other times. It all depends on the temperature or the vibe of the market, right? So I would make a bunch of money and then I lose it, and blah, 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 typical story, right? The best stuff that I found was basically breakout trading. I don't want to go. I don't even really know.
What is that?
So breakout trading is when you have some kind of level, some kind of price that the stock keeps on bouncing off of, right? So let's say you have $100 price or $100 stock share price, but over time it keeps on hitting it and bouncing it against it, right? Hits it.
So you just know bounces. Kind of when to sell.
No, so the bouncing is a resistance level, right? Which basically means that somebody, some institution or some whale or something like that is continuously using that as a point to go liquid. So the price will go up there, and then somebody with like 100,000 shares or whatever would sell at that point, which would push it back down and come back up again. They'd sell again. Blah. Eventually, though, if everything's going right, it'll break through that. And when it breaks through that $100 target, it goes. It's like it's like busting through. It's like the Kool-Aid man busting through a wall and going, "Oh yeah."
The ceiling has been shattered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then from there, it really goes, and then it eventually you hit some other point where people are selling. But like that was the most successful strategy that I found. So I was doing that, and eventually I took another course, right? I have a history of kind of like taking these self-improvement courses. I took a course to learn how to automate this, and then I automated it. And then that left me with a lot of again, of free time. Daughter got into daycare, I had free time. Automated something, I had free time. And that's when I was just like, I got to do something. I got to do something else. I was trying to apply for jobs. I couldn't even get an interview, even though I got this great resume. Nobody would give me an interview for whatever reason. I kind of gave up on it. And I said to my wife, I was like, I can either try and keep on applying for things with no idea of when I would ever get a job, if I would even get a job, or I can just say, screw it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to start my own thing. And that's what I did. And now I'm doing lawn care. Now I'm cutting grasses and pulling out dead leaves and taking down branches and trimming shrubs, and I really like it. I really like it. It's nice being your own boss. It's nice making your own money. It's nice being outside. It's nice. Your job is to work out, essentially. I mean, but you're lifting bags of rocks or bags of mulch instead of weights at the gym.
Yeah.
And it feels good. It feels really good.
Yeah. You mentioned at the very beginning that you don't always follow rules well. I think you said something to that tune.
I said that I do what I want.
You do what you.
It's not that I don't follow rules. It's just that I do what I want to do.
Yeah. Has that always been a part of you?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Did that cause any tension with corporate roles?
I don't think so. I'm sure it caused tension with specific people, but it allowed me to advance my career pretty quickly. Yeah, I think eventually it probably caught up to me.
Okay. Yeah. So how long have you been running your own thing?
Just a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how's it going just these past couple months?
Well, I had a goal to pay for 1 week a month of my daughter's daycare, which is $500, right? Because I'm just starting out. I'm trying not to expect much. But now I'm paying for all of her daycare, which is $2,000 a month. And I've only been doing this for a couple months. So I went from a goal of just, just get started, just go, to now I'm like fully paying for the stuff that I need to pay for in our relationship. Yeah. So it's going really well. Yeah, thank you.
That's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with just, me being a likable person, honestly, and mustering the courage to talk to people.
Yeah. I think that takes you pretty damn far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially both of those things probably equally so. Before I go on this path, I want to say something about the submitting application, not finding anything. I've been freelance software developing for the last couple of years, 3 years or so. And I really thought I wanted to get a full-time job maybe a year ago or so. And so much so that I closed my Georgia LLC. I kind of closed the book and I was like, I'm going to go fully into full-time work. And the universe, whatever, had different plans. Every interview or every application was just, I don't know how many I sent a day, 20, 30. Wake up every morning to a fresh inbox of no's. Every single morning, just like 20 to start the day. It was grueling. And similarly, it just kind of pushed me to like, all right, if no one's going to hand me something, I'm going to have to create something of my own. Something that's come up lately is this idea that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. I don't think that everyone necessarily has the mindset or the desire to do that. A lot of people may not think they have the desire, and then cards are dealt that show actually maybe this is for you, whether or not you recognize it. But I do believe there's some people who really appreciate a more sort of traditional, stable job, steady income things of that nature. And then they get to go, hike in the evenings or camp in the weekends and hike in the afternoons, whatever that may be. Do you think you've always been someone who had the entrepreneurial drive, who had the mindset that is, I'm willing? Yeah, you're nodding your head.
Yes.
Always been there.
Yes.
Why did you not exercise that earlier?
Well, I did.
Okay.
I just didn't mention it earlier.
Okay.
Which probably was a mistake. But right when I moved back in with my parents after college, I started a tech company. It revolved around beer. I got some good traction on Long Island. I was 21 at the time.
So you knew beer well, coming off of college.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was drinking.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And, but what happened was I was just too young and inexperienced and scared. Mm-hmm. And actually, me transitioning through all those roles was with the goal and the intention of owning my own tech company eventually. Because I learned the design aspect, I learned product, I learned engineering.
Right.
I was like, I have all the skills to create something cool. Mm-hmm. My best idea though was when I was 21, when I did the beer thing. And ever since then, I just like, maybe it was because I got sucked into these corporate jobs and then they were kind of mind numbing or whatever. I don't know what it was exactly, but I just kind of lost a lot of that entrepreneurial creativity from a software perspective.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I feel like the entrepreneurial drive has always been there, but I kind of lost it didn't seem that there was a light at the end of the tunnel with regard to entrepreneurship in the tech realm.
Yeah.
And I feel like working in the tech space, it can really beat you down and burn you out quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Especially, I think now what's happening with AI, with layoffs. And I actually am quite grateful that I didn't get the job. I'm also grateful that I am, coming from the software world and one of the first jobs to really be massively affected by artificial intelligence. Because I think if I weren't, I probably would have come to this realization that I need to spin away from a desk job and find my own, forge my own path, but it would have come much more distant into the future. I probably wouldn't be doing this right now. So I am grateful for that. And I feel like that's kind of seems to be a common thread of people who've, whether it's been layoffs or quit or they've escaped the kind of tech, abusive relationship of tech. So you've said you've been entrepreneurial your whole life. This is kind of a manifestation that surprised you. When you were looking for your own thing, what different avenues aside from lawn care were you interested in pursuing?
So I went down the ETA route, which if you don't know what that means, it stands for Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition, which essentially means you buy a boomer's business. They're retiring. Their kids went into corporate. They don't want to take over the family business, whatever. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to buy an established money-making machine. Now, the problem I faced was I had a baby and I couldn't take that risk of buying a multi-million-dollar business, having to put down a couple $100,000 and taking out a SBA loan for the remainder, on the hopes that the transition to new ownership would go well and all the people who they built relationships with would stay and blah, 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 blah. Now I'm a little bit lucky. My wife has a full-time job. She takes care of a lot of the stuff right now. And she has the healthcare aspect tied down for us, which has allowed me to explore a little bit. But when we were first starting to look, we looked into service businesses, not necessarily a physical location business of like selling something or whatever. There's a lot of risk with that. I mean, there's a lot of risk with all of it. Anytime you invest or want to buy something, there's just a ton of risk. And like I said, I just had a baby. We ultimately determined that we couldn't afford. We could afford to do it, but it was too big of a risk if something went wrong. And then that kind of left me with two options. It was either take care of our daughter at home or go out and bust your ass and try and build something yourself. And that's what I did.
For people who are in a space where they're looking to figure out what to do, what to create, what sort of entrepreneurial endeavor they want to take on, do you have any advice for those people to help sort of narrow the focus? Because it can be overwhelming with how much you can do. How do you determine, kind of where to point and shoot?
So for me, I kind of looked at it like, well, what's my existing skills and what are some businesses that don't have those skills? So my existing skills are design and branding, websites, software engineering, management. And you look at a lot of service companies, especially like really small ones, the dad has been running it for 30 years or whatever like that, before there was ever any kind of internet. They don't have those kind of abilities to brand themselves well. They don't want to spend the money to pay somebody to do it. There's a lot of things in the service world, at least, that fall under that category. So I tried to find something where I could leverage my skills and use it as an advantage. Because mowing lawns and trimming hedges, anybody could do it. And because anybody can do it, anybody does do it. And did that make if it does do it?
I see what you mean.
But they don't have the skills that can set them apart from the next person.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I went. I was like, oh, I could put something together. My brand, I'd put it together in a week. My marketing is creating dog approved yards.
Yeah.
Because I named my business after my
share
dog.
share. This is a good time. Share a little bit about the business. You're wearing the t-shirt.
I'm wearing the t-shirt and a little logo. Business name is Cashew's Lawn Care. It's named after my dog. The shtick is that he's the owner, and he does all the inspections afterwards and make sure that it's approved. And I'm just kind of like the errand boy that does what he demands. And it's worked. I've had people come up to me and tell me they like my marketing and they like my stuff. And I chose bright colors because everybody in lawn care has green and brown and like black, and it's all this like a leaf on top with the words right here, or maybe a line separating them, whatever. It's all just boring as shit.
Yeah.
So I came in and I was just like, okay, bright yellow and pink, like something that can be like a stamp, and make it fun. And it's been working for me.
Yeah. I think one of the ways that my mind has shifted as I've gotten older and learned a little bit more about how the world works, even though I know very little about that in the grand scheme of things, is I used to think that like smart people got certain jobs. If you were smart, you would go and you'd be a engineer, an actuary, a doctor, a CEO, whatever. And I think now I've realized like there are so many opportunities out there. Smart people just know how to leverage those opportunities. And whether you're going in lawn care or podcasting or user-generated content or whatever, or training, personal training, health coaching, whatever it might be, there are people who are able to create insane businesses in all of those areas. And obviously it's more than just the smarts, right? There's a lot of pieces that have to come together, but you can really create anything. And I think that part of the thesis of this whole podcast is that as we start to understand there's some sort of breaking down of what's happening at companies, as companies are chipping away at employee benefits, wages, wealth is becoming increasingly concentrated in the upper management, senior executive, stuff like that. And the lay person is struggling. My hope and what I'm starting to see inclinations in the market is that there'll be more opportunities for anyone to open up a business. Um, do you feel similarly? Do you think that there's anything happening in the world today that is, again, for people listening to this who are interested in starting something, do you think that there is opportunities today that exist that maybe weren't here a decade ago?
I think that the opportunity is going to move more towards service industry things where you have relationships with people. And I'm probably completely wrong, and maybe I'm just looking at it from my personal experience. But because corporations, they're kind of seeing things, at least some of them are hiring more people, even with AI, and other ones are laying a lot of people off. But if software or if corporations become too automated and one person's now doing 4 people's jobs, then, I mean, where else can you go? There's only so many, let's say, like Metas of the world, right? There's Meta, Instagram's owned by Meta,
right?
Snap is whatever.
Jokingly, they was it Evan Spiegel, I think is the CEO of Snap, founder. His LinkedIn, I don't know if it still is, but it was for a long time. His title on LinkedIn was like chief research officer of Instagram, because Instagram copied all of Snapchat's everything from like their stories, their disappearing messages, like their everything. So even that, you could argue that in a way is like maybe not owned. It's not owned by Meta, but it's leveraged by Meta, and Meta is just continues to scrape features off of that.
Yeah.
And then you get Amazon, right? They dominate the e-com world.
TikTok is another one. But yeah, I mean, like, we're definitely past the point where these major or these industries can be like improved upon, because all these major Magnificent Seven are just dominating. There have been people who have tried to compete with Amazon. I forget what they were called. I remember hearing about them and knew people who worked at those companies, but they're gone.
So are you saying that if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur, you should not elect to tackle the beast of one of the massive conglomerates, but instead focus on a more niche area?
Probably. So, it's probably a good way of looking at it. It's hard to compete against the big guys, obviously. And some people do it. Some people do it well. Some companies, if they get enough backing, if they know the right people, so much of starting a business that can compete with a big company involves just knowing people who can fund you.
Yeah. And I also wonder too, like, let's talk about competition for a little bit, right? Yeah. When you look at other landscaping businesses, what do you feel? Like, do you feel anxious? Like, oh shit, are they going to take some of my market share? What's going on in your head and your heart?
No, I don't fear that at all.
Yeah.
I haven't lost a single customer. And again, maybe, so many businesses start off and do well because the person who founded them is doing something, right? When you start losing customers, not that I've lost one yet, but I'm going to assume it's when the quality of your service goes down and they're like, the customer's like, oh, well, I'm paying this amount of money and it's not going as well as it used to, so I might want to find somebody new. As long as you can keep up that quality, the customer service, the UX, the user experience,
right.
Then I don't see why you should even have to worry about it. If anything, the people who are entrenched, who aren't evolving, or who don't have that differentiating factor should worry. Now, my differentiating factor, like I said, is a brand and my personality. Like, it's not something that's, some crazy tech thing.
But arguably that's safer. Like, that's more of a moat, I think, nowadays than strong tech is.
A personality? Yeah, probably.
I think the differentiation on more human things. There's a like you know Rick Rubin, the producer. He's a producer. Is it Def Jam that he founded?
Okay.
But he's produced every artist who's ever been anyone. He's had a hand in. Seems like he's had a hand in their trajectory. Interesting character. And there is actually, you'd appreciate this. There's a meme circulating and it said, it was like, it was something about vibe coders, and it was talking about, like, this is every vibe coder. And he's in it, Rick Rubin's in an interview, and the interviewer asks a question like, you know, what do you bring to the table? Do you have any skills? And he's like, I possess absolutely no technical skills whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
It all comes down to my opinions and my taste. I'm paraphrasing, but what he said was like, no, I'm not the best musician. I'm not the best, you know, like I don't have the technical skills to mix and master better than anyone else, but I have exceptional taste.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's clear with AI is it has piss poor taste from a design perspective, from a strategic perspective. And I think it's because, you know, this is getting a little bit off topic, but I think as a society, in this material world we're obsessed with, we focus so much on the material side of things, the measurability, the quantifiable things, the quantitative side, the compute side. You know, these artificial intelligence LLMs are incredibly good at compute, but they lack every other part of the human experience, the emotional experience, I believe, the connection to, you know, a communal consciousness. So they lack the part of us that is involved in the decision-making process that is not purely the computation, the logic, and the reason, which are more or less the same things. One thing. So I say all that because I think that when I'm looking at businesses that I like to work with, businesses that I want to partner with, products that I like to use, obviously the quality of the product matters, right? But the quality of the product, even for a tech product, doesn't necessarily mean that it is the absolute fastest, most performant. Yes, I like all of my apps to load relatively quickly, but I think there's also like a subjective taste component to it where there has to be an intention set by probably a human to kind of steer the technology or steer the product in a direction that aligns with what other humans want. And I think as we've become so oversaturated with new tech, and a lot of the tech is just vibe coded and takes no time to build, the bar has actually not been lowered for quality applications, even though everyone can, like, just with a couple of sentences prompt an AI to build a full stack application, and, you know, push it to some Vercel domain, and now everyone has access to it. I think it's raising the bar for the need for like high tasteful applications. And so I think that's the same with services businesses and other things. What's your take on that? You're shaking your head.
I can see where you're coming from. The internet started off with the best intentions, and then it got flooded with crap.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing's going to happen with AI. Or, I mean, people talk about AI slop all the time. Now, individuals building their own applications. What I find interesting, what I've always found slightly interesting about people, is that they get hyper focused on their specific needs, because obviously they would, because they're the ones facing whatever their specific problem they're facing. Now, with the ability to vibe code, everybody's going to be able to do what they need to do to fix their very specific problems,
right?
Which maybe is exactly proving your point. Everybody's focusing on their very specific problem. So then what is the cultural thing that everybody can wrap around, everybody can get involved in? And maybe that is just a much higher quality application that everybody could join in on. I don't know. I guess the reason why I was shaking my head is because my first thought was that people get very specific about their specific problems and don't think about a scalable solution.
Interesting. I I almost feel the opposite. Like when I was working at the startup studio and the people that I've connected with who are interested in starting largely like tech businesses, and even ones I've consulted with, usually have too much emphasis on scalability and not enough emphasis on day one.
Maybe it's because I'm thinking about.
Real quick, I do also agree that, like, I think that the era of SaaS is dead. Or I don't want to say the era of SaaS is dead, because I think there's still a space for SaaS. I really do believe there's a space for specific businesses that are SaaS. I think things that are highly regulated, things that are, for example, like accounting software, I would not want to create my own accounting software. Now, my own bookkeeping software, my own, I built my 2 days over the weekend, a little bit Saturday, a little bit on Sunday, months ago. I built a way for me to track all of my non-business expenses. So any expenses that are on a personal account, any recurring expenses like rent, anything that can be like this studio space that I pay, X per month, and then this is 10% of the square footage. So 10% of my rent can be written off, calculates that. I can add all of my upload PDFs of my donations, like all that stuff. I built this thing. It's super specific to me, and I do not care about anyone else who's going to use it. If no one else uses it, I don't give a shit. It's my own product, right? Yeah. And I think that there's all these tiny little like micro SaaS businesses that anyone under the sun can vibe code, and who gives a shit about scalability? Because and that's another thing is like those who are a little bit bearish on AI, who think, oh, well, especially with regard to software development, they're like, oh, well, it can't scale. It doesn't scale well. And I would disagree. I think with the right architect, it can, but also it may not have to scale. I don't need to scale this one software to thousands, millions, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users. I need to scale it to myself and just make sure that every month I can put in those lines.
Well, that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. I fully agree that like these little micro SaaS businesses, everyone can just kind of vibe code their own thing. And I think that SaaS is going to largely evolve because of that. I think it's the people who have the mentality of, I want to create a unicorn. I want to build, which is a funny statement considering there's like what's beyond, I don't even know what's beyond a decacorn. Is that what they call it? Like, a $1 trillion company. But it used to be everyone to become I wanted to build a unicorn. I wanted to build $1 billion company. And now like $1 billion company seems so meaninless. Not to me, or maybe you, but like in the grand scheme of things, when you think of the company, the valuations of businesses now, it's like $1 billion, a drop in the bucket seemingly. I think for the people who are looking to build a $1 billion business, who really want to, those are the types of people, which may be 1% of the population or less than that. Yeah. Those are the types of people who are so eager to acquire market share that they focus too much on scale. They're like, I want to make sure that we can reach 1,000 customers. And I'm like, dude, you don't even have one customer. Why do you care about 1,000 customers? Focus on that one, right? But I think exactly to your point, for those who are just interested in making their lives easier, those people don't give a shit about scale. For me, I do not want my little budgeting app to go to anyone else. Yeah. I mean, if someone wanted to use it, sure, I'd send it to them, whatever. Yeah. But it's just for me, and I could not care less about scalability. But that's because the things I want to grow, the business I want to grow is this. I don't want to grow a tech business right now. That's been a ship that has sailed that I've realized is not for me. I do not care to push the tech industry any further. I feel like honestly, tech is good enough. There's other people who can progress it who are way more interested than I am. Sure, I'll just kind of ride that wave, whatever. But I'm happy with tech. It's the same reason why like I'm looking at an older car. I'm looking at older bikes. Like I think tech got to a point where it's sufficient. And now we're kind of seeing like as tech gets quote unquote, I don't even want to say better, as tech improves and it like has made my life worse. I don't really want my car to break for me. I don't want my car to change gears for me. That's ridiculous. Why do we have automatic transmissions? That's crazy. That's just bonkers. Why do we have those? It's crazy. But Yeah, so I think there's certain people out there who are more oriented towards growth and who want to build $1 billion company. I think those are the people that tend to over-index for scale. And then there's the people who are just, honestly, I love the category of people who's just leveraging all the tech that exists, i.e. AI, and is building stuff for themselves. And like, that is kind of what I want the future of technology to be. It's just like custom, building whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, scalability, it's when people build everything that they want to build, then they have to worry about the upkeep of it. Then they have to, worry about integrations into things and all this other crap that comes with software.
Right.
And that's where the scalability aspect comes into play. And, it could just be what we could see in the next couple of years is an overreaction of, people's desire to build their own thing, right? And then as they learn the actual complications of then integrating into existing systems like the government and to pay their taxes, they're gonna be like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this. I'm just gonna pay TurboTax.
Right.
Like this could like be a big backlash. And I don't know. I'm just kind of like talking out of my butt right now.
But TurboTax is one of those that's a more like it's a very regulated space.
It is. And you think that, and I think that, but the average person probably is like, screw that. I don't want to pay the whatever amount of money. I'm just going to do this thing on myself. And then they're going to realize how complicated it is. Like, I think that this whole, you said that you think SaaS is dead, right? I don't think that. I think SaaS is going to evolve. I think people are going to experiment on their own for a little bit because they have this newfound power. And then they're going to realize how much it sucks. And then they're just going to go back to not the old SaaS model, because the SaaS model will evolve to integrate with AI and all the other things. But you and I both know, as you're an engineer and I'm a former engineer, that dealing with tech, dealing with integrations, dealing with all the compliances, especially you did HIPAA, I worked on custom accounting software, like that shit sucks. And the average person is not going to want to deal with that. More than that, 90% of people are not going to want to deal with that.
Right. No, I agree. What I mean by SaaS is dead is that the legacy model of building a business that is the technology itself is the moat, is not going to survive through AI. If you think about this.
Is that because people can replicate it too quickly?
I think it's because their own teams can replicate it too quickly. Like, think about Salesforce. Salesforce is there. I don't have the stats, and frankly, I'm not going to pull them up right now because it's a bit cumbersome. But Salesforce for businesses like, say, a Coca-Cola does have engineers on their team, but I would bet that I'd be willing to bet a large sum of money that the majority of their workforce is not engineering. Now, Coca-Cola is a little bit weird because I know that technically, like, the Coca-Cola bottling company like licenses and sells out. So like under the Coca-Cola corporate, I actually don't know how many employees they have. They probably have a far fewer than you would imagine who are wearing Coca-Cola on their shirt, because those are like licensing the brand, but they're not employed directly by Coca-Cola. But let's just imagine under the whole bucket of Coca-Cola, there's some subset of engineers, and they probably use a CRM like Salesforce to handle all of the complicated business use cases. They're spending, I mean, millions. They've got to be spending millions of dollars on a CRM like Salesforce. And some of these accounts that Salesforce has are gigantic. One software engineer, $125,000 to $250,000 a year. Plus or minus, I don't know what the average is, but for, call it $250,000 a year. That's one engineer. That one engineer, I'm quite confident, certainly within a year, but probably within a couple months, could stand up an entirely custom CRM built specifically to the nuances of that business. That's, even if they're $250,000, what's a quarter of that? $75,000 you spent for that entirely custom built, it's not white gloved, it is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
$75,000,
Yeah.
not $7 million or
Sure.
even $1 million. So I think there's the old model of SaaS where you can just rely purely on your technology and you have a Salesforce engineer, like someone who can, figure out how to make the Salesforce engine work for your use case and tweak it. Now you just have engineers who can just do that and build things from the ground up within their own organizations. And like Monday.com has drastically reduced their price because anyone under the sun can build their own CRM in a day.
Have they?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the CRMs have started to decrease their pricing. I stopped paying for ClickUp for like project management tools. Just like, it's not worth it. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know Monday.com reduced their prices. But I also think that going back to the maintenance aspect of it is just, I just don't know that a company would want to get something standing and then, that particular employee who's the new software engineer working with Claude to have the expertise to build something from scratch, right? Yeah, they might be able to talk to, the fellow employees at Coca-Cola to get an idea, but they don't know the 12 plus years or whatever it is of edge cases that they've discovered. Because there's a ton of, there's tons of edge cases all the time, everywhere.
Yeah.
Every time you think that you got rid of them, there's 20 more. So I don't know. I mean, it's the kind of thing you just have to wait and see.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
It's all conjecture.
It's all conjecture. And at the end of the day, I do think that, like yourself, you're developing this budgeting, or not budgeting, you said bookkeeping app, right? That thing's going to break over time, right? As new software updates occur on the coding language. And then you're going to be like, oh, well, now I have to maintain this. And now it's just an extra thing that I have to do that I don't have time for. And then you're going to go, okay, well, now I need to find something where it's just going to work. And, all that stuff will happen over time. It always does. But I feel like we went down this big tangent.
Yeah,
it's
a very big tangent. Let's go back to Cashew's Lawn Care.
Yeah.
If you're anything like me, you find yourself probably on a daily basis looking for a little afternoon pick-me-up. I always have my bottle of water with me, got to stay hydrated, but sometimes I want something that packs a little bit more of a punch, has a little bit more flavor, a little bit more refreshing. I've been experimenting with a lot of different options, but I've recently found one that has taken the cake, and that is Oslo, spelled Hazlo. Oslo is a non-alcoholic seltzer. It also has ginseng, ginkgo, and magnesium for some added health benefits, but honestly, it just tastes really damn good. They just released their blood orange and hibiscus flavor, and I believe they have 3 or 4 additional flavors right now. I would encourage you to check it out. I would really appreciate if you use the link in the show notes. That's going to directly benefit Oslo and Sam, as well as the Ambiguous Truth and myself. That's all. On to the show. Thanks. I want to hear a little bit more about, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced, and what are some of the best rewards, the biggest rewards that you've experienced?
Well, as of right now, the biggest challenge I faced was figuring out what it was that I was going to do.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can do anything.
Yeah.
And you can get paralyzed by choice.
Yeah.
Especially when when you have all these skills that you didn't have when you were just out of college. And you're like, oh, there's this opportunity that I can do, and I can, make it this way, or that opportunity, or whatever it is. And you do get paralyzed by choice, because you start to think less about the actual thing you're doing and more about, well, how much money can I make off of that, which is very important. Money is important. The whole world runs on it. But the money comes, it's important just to pick something and go with it. It doesn't have to be something you're gonna be like, oh, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. You're sure as hell I'm not going to be mowing lawns the rest of my life. That is not the goal. The goal is to hire people to do that and just build a brand that can scale multiple locations, multiple states, whatever. That's the goal. That's the big picture thinking for me. But in the short term, you got to be okay with doing some things that are intensive, labor intensive. And, just like anybody who starts a business, you literally got to wear all the hats, and you got to be okay with that. And eventually you won't have to do that. Am I even close to that where I'm not going to have to wear any hats? No. But if things keep on going the way they are, maybe next year I can start hiring people to do the things that I'm doing. The skills that I have that I enjoy, which are design, being creative. At the end of the day, a business is all about creativity, whether you like it or not. It's how do I market right? How do I talk to people? How do I convince people to buy something from me? Every CEO is a salesperson. So that's the creative part. That's fun, right? Everything that comes along with it, eventually you can automate, you can hire it out, you can automate it, whatever. So in the short term, it's hard to get over this idea of like, oh, am I going down this path? Is it going to be demeaning? Am I going to whatever? I think you look at it, you're looking at it the wrong way. The way you should look at it is you're starting a company, and it doesn't matter what it is. It's creative. It's going to be fun. It's going to be every day is a learning experience. The thing that you're doing to actually make the money maybe isn't, you're not learning anything because it's cutting grass, but everything else around that enables you to cut the grass is the learning part.
Yeah.
Like that's the interesting, that's the cool stuff. And and eventually you get past the boring, mundane stuff.
Yeah. Did you have any insecurities that were humbled out of you? Did you I'll provide a little context. I think, one of the things that I've been kind of challenged with recently is I'm in this transition into a new career away from software development. And I'm genuinely struggling when people ask what I do to say I'm a podcaster. I don't really care to go into all the details and the weeds behind that right now, but I'll just say I think there's a lot of podcasters who it seems like they're kind of in it for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
A lot of people I've witnessed over the years, they've just brought on like worse and worse guests, maybe more popular guests, but not better guests.
Okay.
Shifting away from their mission, seemingly clout chasing. And I also feel like I'm not making any money from this. So it's hard for people to, when they ask the question like, oh, what are you doing for a living? It's like, well, I'm not really doing this for a living. I'm just, I'm not bleeding much money, but I'm spending, a little bit of money on subscriptions and obviously a lot of time on it. So it's been really hard for me to like answer that, and maybe I can answer it, but I don't feel it. Did you struggle with that at all? Did you have any moments where you were taking on this new career, this new job, this new avenue, whatever you want to call it, and people asked what you did and you were like, I feel some level of discomfort around sharing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was walking around, I was walking around my neighborhood, I was trying to stay hyper localized with door hangers, and I didn't know right pricing. I still don't really know right pricing. And I put stuff, my goal was to go and knock on their doors and talk to them and like just hang up the flyer and be like, oh, here, there's a price on the back. I went onto Google Maps and I got the square footage of your property, so I already know how long it would take me, blah, blah, blah. But that was scary because you're like, oh, I've never done this before. Just like anything in business, you've never done it before. You have a whole season of podcasting, but you're in a whole new world of how to scale it. And so, yeah, I was definitely intimidated. I didn't have any customers, and people would ask me what I would do and be like, oh, and whatever. It was, but that quickly changed. Like that, I went out and I was knocking on people's doors. I went out, I wasn't knocking on people's doors. I did that for 2 days. And I was like, well, I just got to do it. Third day, I did it. First couple doors were a little awkward. I didn't really know exactly how to say things, whatever. And then 3, 4 in, I was like, oh, I actually like this. I actually enjoy talking to people. Which was, it was like, it was this very short period of discomfort when I was actually doing it. And all of the bad thoughts and all the terrible stuff was actually before I just do it. And I was hemming and hawing, and it was making it worse than it had to be. And then I just started knocking on people's doors and like, oh, actually, I get to talk to these people. Some people talked for me for like 20 minutes. There are like a lot of older folk coming, being like, oh, nobody comes to the door anymore. But tell me about yourself. And I was like, oh, this is great. I get to have some socialization. I get to know everybody in the neighborhood. I'm, the way I was kind of pitching myself was like, hey, I'm just starting a company. I'm just letting you know I exist.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need anything. And then people, and the crazy thing is that people, because we have a terrible year to start a lawn care company. For anybody who listens, we're in a drought in Colorado. Nothing's growing. Like
just burning.
Yeah, everything's super dry and crispy. The people didn't actually started to get their lawns mowed until like a month ago, right? So I was starting a company in a drought. I was getting almost no positive feedback. I'd hang stuff on people's doors. Nobody's calling. I'd knock on people's doors. I'd have great conversations. But again, nobody was calling. And at first I thought it was, oh, it's me. My stuff's too expensive, whatever. But the reality was just that nobody needed the work done yet. And it was kind of a mind, it like screwed me up a little bit because it started messing with my confidence. And messing with like what I thought I built. And even though, it wasn't much effort to build all of it, you go to Squarespace, put together a website quickly, put a brand together over a course of a week. It wasn't a huge time commitment, but it was still like, am I not cut out for this? But then it rained a couple times and people started calling me and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is just the weather. Sometimes it's just complete circumstances are out of your control.
Yeah.
And you just got to work, like keep on pushing forward. So yeah, to answer your question, I was definitely like, in the beginning, I was like, I'm doing this, but it's not really working just yet.
Yeah.
And I was kind of nervous about being like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I have a little bit of imposter syndrome and this, that, and the other thing. And, but yeah, after it went away pretty quickly, I'll tell you that.
Do you think you'll be able to lean on that experience for future challenges, for future times of, feelings of insecurity or a lack of confidence? Do you think you'll come back to that?
Yes, but it's all circumstantial and different every single time. My life hasn't been the easiest life in the world. A lot of things have happened. But I've always pushed through it no matter what.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge, the most adversity you've faced in your life?
After I graduated from software engineering boot camp, I got a job at Shutterstock. I was a brand new engineer. I wasn't very experienced. I screwed up a couple times. Sure. Anyway, they eventually put me on a PIP, a performance improvement plan. And I was going to get let go. During that time, my dad, actually, he was diagnosed with this a year before. He was diagnosed with a brain tumor, but he didn't let us know until a year later. And that just happened to line up with when I was put on a PIP. What happened was I kept my job temporarily. I went home and spent time with my dad. He was only alive for a month after that kind of sequence of events happened. But every day he would decline more. eventually he couldn't remember who we were. I had to change his diaper and lift him up and off the the toilet. It was really tough. During that time, I knew I was going to lose my job, and I was like, I got to figure something out. So I went and interviewed while this was going on, and I interviewed at JP Morgan, and they hired me. But it was like, it was insane. Because the most, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
Don't apologize. It's all right.
The hardest part was, one time I walked in and my dad couldn't remember who I was. About an hour later, I had a phone interview that I had to take. So I had to go in, couldn't remember who I was. I started bawling, pull myself together, and then be on a 30-minute phone call. And yeah, that was really tough. Yeah, but then after that, he just kept on declining. Like I said, I had to change his diaper. It's really funny. The funny part of all of that was when me and my brother were changing his diaper, and and both of us got to look at his penis. And later on, when me and my brother were like recovering after he passed away, we went to go see a movie, and I was like, Andrew, my brother's name, Andrew, when you saw Dad's dick, were you like, oh, that's my dick? We have the same penises. He was like, yeah, I thought that too. I'm like, well, now I know what your penis looks like. That was, a silver lining, funny brotherly bonding moment that we had.
Yeah, you got to find some humor in that experience.
Oh yeah,
I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not often I get to talk about penises on a podcast.
Probably will not be the last time penises come up on this podcast. I don't know. I think I just bring that out of people. People feel like, oh, I can say whatever the hell I want, and I like that.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? People do the same thing with me. I can't tell you how many, especially older guys and just guys in general, just start talking to me about their life problems. And it's just like, yeah, sure, yeah, this is my experience, and let me know if I can help you in any way or whatever. It's so weird.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of a superpower though.
Yeah.
I think the providing a space where people feel comfortable to share something is really powerful and beautiful when you get to connect with someone.
Definitely.
Yeah. One of the many reasons I like this job.
Yeah. Do you watch Diary of the CEO at all?
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's actually if you go onto this Spotify on the Ambiguous Truth Spotify, there's two recommendations I have. One's for The Creative Act, which is a book by Rick Rubin, and the other one is for Diary of a CEO. Yeah, Stephen Bartlett's like my. It's funny. I've never really had someone in my entire life who I've looked up and been like, that is the North Star ever. Growing up playing hockey, I had players I admired. I loved Evgeny Malkin. I felt like he was a good balance of finesse and brutality. He was skilled, but he also wasn't afraid to fight, unlike his teammate Sidney Crosby, who amazing player, but just a little bit softer. I had, certain teachers I looked up to. I had certain business mogul, entrepreneurial type people who I looked up to, but I think Stephen Bartlett is someone that I'm I everything he does. He's such a role model for me. The way he leads his interviews, you can just tell how empathetic he is. He's also built such an amazing business out of it.
Yeah.
Definitely been a huge inspiration for me.
Yeah. He's great.
He's wonderful. Dude, let's take it back a little bit before, because you touched on your childhood a little bit, and I want to know if there are some experiences that you had as a child that, for better, for worse, good experiences, bad experiences, that now, however many years in the future, you look back on and they were really defining moments of kind of where you find yourself today.
Yeah, like I said, I had family problems. So doing everything that I could outside the house was, definitely defining.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for ways um, to improve and to regulate myself and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff.
Something that's kind of come up for me lately is looking as I've kind of transitioned. Well, a big part of it is like you said that you like to kind of figure out your own path,
Yeah.
type thing. I think in hindsight, I look back at a lot of little quirks and personality traits of me as a kid that are shining through really vibrantly today. Like I don't really do well with rules. I do well with rules when I understand why they're there. I don't do well with rules that are obviously arbitrary and bullshit. So I'm just wondering, are there any sort of character traits or personality quirks that, for most of your life, you maybe thought were a downfall or a detriment. And now as you're older, wiser, have a kid, have a career or have a business, you're looking at them in a little bit of a different light and you're sort of now grateful for the quirks, the personality traits, the nuances.
I kind of feel like I've always been almost like it's almost genetic, I'd say, that the way I am what I am. My mom always likes to talk about how when we were younger, she put everybody through like a Myers-Briggs test. And we were all always the doctor who gave it to us, or whoever it was who gave it, it was like, I've never seen a more independent people within a family, because we all settled, and as very independent. I'm an ENTJ. So I forget. I think that's the commander or whatever.
I don't know that I know ENTJ because I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I was in college, and I'm nearly the opposite of that now.
Oh, really?
I think I'm IN. God, I'd have to look it up.
That's interesting. Interesting that you changed.
INFP.
INFP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or ENFP, sorry.
Did you
Definitely
do like 16 personalities? Is that how you took that again? Or
I think so. I actually have it on my computer. I can look it up.
Yeah. So I've always been, somebody who's, and I can't think of like a defining moment that put me down this trajectory of I'm gonna do what I want. Maybe there is. My dad wasn't really around growing up, so I've always had to figure everything out myself. As an example, I helped my mom constantly around the house because my parents got divorced at 14, and then when I was 14, and then after that, I basically assumed the male role of the household. My brother went off to college, and then it was just me and my mom in a 5-bedroom house with 20 80-foot tall oak trees that dropped their leaves every fall. There was a lot of heavy antiques, just a lot of things. And I basically, I didn't talk to my dad after my parents got divorced for like 7 to 8 years. So I essentially had to do everything. I had to learn everything myself. I had to learn how to be a man myself. There was a couple people that I looked at as role models: Conan O'Brien and Seth MacFarlane, mostly because I needed the humor in order to get through.
Yeah.
So they really, they're always positive, always joking attitude, positivity always made me feel good. And maybe, yeah. So I guess I wouldn't say it was a specific defining moment, more so just the reality of what it was like growing up, where I had to always step up, and I had to always find the light in things.
Follow-up question, but before we get to that, 16 personalities is exactly right. And yeah, ENFP. But yeah, it evolved a little bit
Very cool.
over time. Yeah, I think the um it's the perception one, the feeling versus T. What's T? Ian.
I don't remember.
Whatever it is, I think I just leaned a little bit more into trying to. Oh, it's thinking versus feeling, or thinking versus perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
I think over the last couple of years since college, I've leaned a lot more into the emotional side of things and using that as part to inform decisions rather
Mm-hmm.
than just the logical, rational side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really been I think the one area that it might have been both the TJ switch to an FP. So those two other ones are different, but I've always been extroverted. It seems like one thing that's come up in various ways is how individualist this society is.
Mm-hmm. The US you're talking about.
The US, yeah. And like Western in general. And you're obviously very independent.
Yeah.
Your whole family is. Do you feel like that's been a strength throughout the life? Have you had some negative experiences with that where you've really struggled? And sort of, I guess where I'm coming from is it's easy for me to kind of, sometimes I'll kind of just, curl into a little ball and want to do everything myself rather than leaning on other people and the community around me. Has that been your experience with being hyper independent, where you've kind of shut down a little bit? How have you sort of exercised that and figured out a balance of maintaining that independence so you can drive towards what you want while, leveraging the help of those around you?
It's been a challenge because my wife is also very independent.
Mm-hmm.
She is right now, like she's moved from jobs, she's climbed the corporate ladder, all that stuff. So she's also super independent, and it's never really caused a problem for me until I had a child. Because as soon as you have a child, then one parent always has some adults that you trust always has to be with that kid. Me and my wife moved from New York, where my family lives, to Colorado because we did it. We wanted a change of lifestyle. We wanted more outdoors. We wanted Colorado. Denver is a place where like you can start. Like you can't really start in New York City or LA or anything like that. You get all the cool culture, the cool nightlife. But when you're ready to get married and start a family, like that crap doesn't matter anymore. And you want to afford some place to live. You want to afford a house to raise a family. So anyway, we moved to Colorado to do that. And then we got exactly what we wanted. We got the outdoors, we got the house, we got our independence, and we had a kid, we got our kid. And what we realized, which, anybody should realize, because it's a saying that is, as old as time, it takes a community to raise a kid.
Right.
And we didn't have any family in Colorado. So that's why I had to raise our daughter for the first year and a half. And, like I said earlier, luckily when I got let go, I got a nice severance. I had stock options. So I was capable of doing that. Most people are not. Daycare, it costs us $2,000 a month. But that being said, I can't tell you how many stories I hear of millennials who their boomer parents don't want to help raise their kids.
Really?
Yeah. Like I hear a lot of people with kids, their parents are like, we've spent our whole life working, whatever. We've accumulated a ton of money. We want to go on vacations all the time. We don't really want to spend time with your kid, whatever it is. And I'm not saying my parents or my wife's parents are like that. I'm just saying that from what I hear and what I see, there's a world right now where this hyper independence, when you have a kid, it's just like it becomes incredibly difficult.
Wow.
I'm not trying to deter anybody from having a kid because they're wonderful. I love my daughter. But it at that point was when I realized that my hyper independence was actually a detriment, because now I've established a life over here. And my mom and my wife's parents are, either in Vancouver or New York. And it's, in order for us to do anything, in order for us just to work, we have to spend $2,000 on daycare. Now, some person who, develops a relationship with our kid is seeing a lot of the firsts, right? Or if we want to go out on a date, we have to spend a ton of money on a babysitter. It doubles the cost of the date. And, we found some ways around it so far. We've made friends with other parents who've like watched our daughter so we could go out to get dinner or whatever. But 2.5 years of doing that, two and a third, let's just say 2 years, 2 years of doing that it takes a toll.
Yeah.
It takes a huge toll on you. Or any millennial who has to do it, any parent who has to do it.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a parent that doesn't give two craps.
Yeah. It's crazy to hear that there are some, like my first reaction was like, holy shit, I can't believe there are some grandparents who don't want to be there for their grandkids. But I have some, I don't know if they're unpopular, because it seems like now they're more popular. But I would say unpopular opinions on the nuclear family and a lot of challenges with it and things I don't love about it. And obviously the whole podcast in and of itself is, not built on the belief that corporate is best. And I feel like something that really irks me and rubs me the wrong way is when someone has a goal of retiring at, 65, and they're just going to grind and hustle until they get to 65. Because I mean, how can you know what your life is going to be at 65? How can you know if you're going to make it to 65? How, and then if you make it to 65 and you now have grandkids and you allocated your mid 60s, early 70s to travel, you have to make the decision between what you want to do and travel the world with your, partner or whomever, yourself, whatever, or choose to spend that time with your grandkid during, the earliest, most formative years. That is a horrible decision.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to make that decision.
Yeah.
And I think, tying back to the purpose of this podcast and this episode, that's something that I deeply feel is like, if I do not ever want to create a goal so far in the future, 65, for example, that I orient my entire life around in hopes that I achieve that goal. Because even if you get to the finish line, right? Even if you do retire at 65 and you have money, who knows what else is going to change? Grandkids, health or lack thereof.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me that, we've been encouraged at least for me, like my entire life, my early career, to aim at that. And you're seeing already that breakdown. You're already seeing, grandparents who are unwilling to spend time with their grandkids, and like, yeah, it takes a village for a reason. That is absolutely wild to me.
Yeah. Well, to go back to what you just said, my dad is an example. He worked his entire life, like you're saying, with the intention of retiring, and he got the brain tumor at 59. So, that's actually something that shaped me. He didn't even get a chance to enjoy retirement, or anything, because kaput, he's dead.
Yeah. It's crazy. I was, my current roommate and I were at, do you know where Kremling is?
No.
South of Steamboat.
Okay.
On the Colorado River. And there's a gentleman there who was 70, and he was camping next to us, and we got to chatting, and he was just, he was just talking about like, I paid my dues, I worked, I did my thing, and now I retired at 65 and I'm living the best life. And he's like, so just do that. And like, I'm not particularly good at like hiding my feelings. Like I wear my feelings on my sleeve. If someone says something that rubs me the wrong way, I'm not going to pretend like it's all hunky dory. My roommate's a little better at that. He can he's a little more tactful. He's in sales, so maybe that's why. But the whole time he was saying that, I was just thinking like, I mean, I'm very grateful that he has had such a great experience doing that. I am truly grateful that he's had such a positive experience following that path. But it hit me, that's the first time I've ever heard someone say they're glad about it. You know, I haven't really heard many people of, you know, that generation who have expressed gratitude that they took that path. And that shaped me. That has been a big reason why I've decided not to take that path, and I'm really trying to figure out the balance of still striving for a goal and, you know, sort of, I don't even know if retirement's the right word, but like financial stability for, you know, the however many years in the foreseeable future, but also wanting to figure out how to enjoy life now. And I think that's a big reason why I love Colorado. I find a lot more people out here who are really trying to savor the moment, you know, really be grateful for what we have. And it's obviously, it's a lot easier when you have weather like this. It's beautiful outside, you know, there are some clouds outside, but it's, you know, blue skies. Really fucking hot, but it's nice warm weather. You know, you're working outside all day. You can it's not too hard.
I got a nice tan to prove it.
Yeah, and some freckles. Yeah. I've been avoiding the sun at all costs. It's so hot, like the sun is piercing. I always wear full leg, full pants and, you know, sleeves when I'm outside. I can't do it. It's just too hot. But anyway, I think that, you know, that's shaped me a lot, is like seeing people who have not, you know, been able to experience the goal of retirement and the luxury of retirement. And you get so many people who have experienced retirement and they just quit. They just quit moving their bodies. They quit moving their minds, and they start to go downhill so rapidly. And so they thought they were going to live. They're like healthy at 65 and like, I'm going to live until 95. And then 70 rolls around. They haven't done shit for the last 5 years. Their body's starting to, you know, disintegrate. Their mind is disintegrating. It's like, I don't think we're meant to do that either. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of things that we are encouraged to do that I'm starting to see examples of them not working all that well in the long run.
And that being one of them.
Yeah. I think just the whole notion of like retiring and never working again, and like just, all right, well, now I get to sit in front of the couch or sit in front of a TV on the couch for hours on end. Or even if you're sitting on a beach for hours on end, like that's not really, I don't think it's really doing you any good. You're going to probably lose a sense of purpose and meaning in life too. Now, maybe if you have kids or grandkids, like you can regain some of that back too.
Yeah. I think from your perspective, you're viewing everything from the point of view of not having kids. And, you know, as soon as you have kids, if you have kids, totally changes. But not like immediate. It's not like a light switch, but you start realizing all these things. Yeah.
What are some of those things?
So Cashew's lawn care, mowing lawns, not the most exciting or, you know, incredible thing to be doing ever. It's, some people view it as demeaning. But at this point, I don't care. You know, when like I said earlier, I'm very driven. I oriented a lot of my career and career choices around eventually owning some tech company that I developed, and, you know, a millionaire, multimillionaire, whatever. You know, and then I had a kid, and I was just like, I don't care anymore. I just want to make some money and spend time with my daughter. That's one thing. Another thing is just like, you get a lot of satisfaction out of watching your kid grow. I mean, everybody says this. It's no surprise. It's just, you don't actually know until you have one. So, you know, it's basically all the things that you've heard your entire life about having a kid, that you don't believe until you have a kid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of my point too, though, is like, I would hope that everyone regardless of, their relationship status, or if they have a family or kids or whatever, they still want to, like, they recognize that work is a medium through which you can, create value in the world, and then capture some of that value through money. And then you're able to, afford to create the life you want for not only yourself, but your offspring, your spouse, things like that. I think where I get caught up is when people become too sort of milestone oriented, and rather than just looking at their lives today saying, what do I want? What do I want now? How much time do I want to spend with my kids? How much time do I want to spend with my partner? How much time do I want to spend with my friends and my community? They say, well, I'll spend time with them in the future. I'll spend time with them, when I'm 65. I'll spend time with them when I'm retired. I'll travel when I'm retired. I'll travel. You may not get that chance.
You may not, but I can't blame people for thinking that way, because money is what enables all of it.
Why must we feel like we need to sacrifice today for some unforeseeable future tomorrow?
Let's look at the stock market as an example.
Okay.
Compounding interest.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something, like I got advice from my corporate people: put as much money as you can into your 401k. I maxed it out for many years. And now I'm 37. I'm 37 in a couple weeks. July 11th, 7/11 is my birthday.
Nice.
Get free Slurpees.
It's a great little birthday gift.
I got a bunch of money now, right? Which is partly is what enabled me to be able to take this risk on making a lawn care company. But I never would have been able to do that unless I took the advice of stocking away a bunch of money during a lot of my prime earning years. Now, that being said, I think the boomer generation, part of what happened with them is they were living under the teachings, if you will, or whatever. Their parents were the silent generation, right?
I think so.
Yeah. They were the Great Depression era. Right. So Great Depression, I don't know if you've ever listened or read anything about the Great Depression and what caused it to happen. It was essentially a lot of corruption, a lot of no rules or regulations. The Exchange and Rules Commission didn't exist yet. So it's basically like a Wild West, right? So they taught the silent generation taught the boomers, don't do stuff in the stock market, don't really invest, like keep your money, all this stuff about preserving what you have, which is why millennials, what they inherit from their boomer parents is just like an attic full of crap, right? Now we're millennials, we're in the information age, and you can learn anything on the internet. And I know that a lot of millennials, a lot of people our age are not doing it, but investing early, and this is why our parents didn't invest early. They didn't get into the stock market early. So many of them are now living, like very meager lives. There's tons of people in poverty. And they had like a lot of fear with investing and all that stuff. So they're now in their 60s and they're not working and they're living, like I said, very meager lives. Us, on the other hand, we've had a lot of information, a lot of we can't, what our parents told us to do has never actually worked for us. Go to college, get a ton of debt, so on and so forth. So at least what I did was I kind of forged my own path. And I did a lot of the things that seemed risky. Starting my own tech company, going to a boot camp, doing stock market stuff, like all this stuff. And this probably just goes back to me as a person, who I am. But all this stuff has enabled me to now, and in my late 30s, really create my own life, as opposed to being a slave to a corporate job. But that came with a sense of trust in the people who have been doing it beforehand. A sense of adventure, sense of risk taking, which as guys, we have a more risk taking appetite than women. Thank you, testosterone, I guess.
I hear you. I'll reverse it.
Yeah.
Reverse this framing that you shared earlier, which is I'm coming from the lens of not having kids and you're coming from the lens of having kids.
Yeah.
A wife and a daughter. Your tolerance for risk right now is far
down.
Right.
Yeah.
So, a couple things here. Firstly, you cannot take a shot in the dark as much as I can.
Yep.
Because if this fails, okay, I go back to software. I go back to PMing. I go back to something that is more tried and true. I'm only supporting myself. Different people have different risk tolerances intrinsically. And there are external factors that sort of require your risk tolerance to be modulated. Family is a great example. Also, having had corporate jobs and been able to put money into retirement and been able to save up, I also have a bit of a stockpile. And having had income through software development for the first 6 months of the year, I'm able to have a little bit of money in my business account that I can just take distributions out of when I do need that capital in my personal account. If there's no revenue to be generated from this for the next, however much time, right? So, I definitely understand where you're more, you saving, you following, doing like, you say risky stuff of like, testing the waters and,
early in the career was very risky. It was like 401k, somebody else manages it for you, whatever.
So by being able to, save your money, by being able to, put it into a portfolio that is going to grow, it's going to accumulate, interest, that compounds over time. Yeah, you're able to take on a little bit more risk now. But for people who, maybe in a different situation, who have the tolerance for much greater risk today, like myself, not having a family or a child, it's a lot easier for me to take on a risk today to get to my, my dreams. And I also think, I'm willing to sacrifice however much the known upside is from putting money away from a salary job into the stock market, 8% per year, 10%. I am also not really banking that the stock market is going to go up in the next however much time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a massive bubble burst and a massive plummet. I don't really care to put more money into the stock market right now. If anything, I'm interested in finding other markets to move my money away from, non-US equities, more, I'm trying to figure that out right now. So I think, but my point here is I'm willing to, I guess, risk, for lack of a better term, the foregoing all of the future stock market appreciation of my assets for the unforeseeable future and potential reward of doing something that I actually want out of life in a much more like subjective way.
Sure.
Because I think that there's the richness in terms of finance, in terms of, monetary wealth, but there's also richness in terms of social wealth, right? And I think because I have more time on my plate now, I'm able to pour more into building a social wealth, building up, stock within my community and trust within, the network of like, oh, Anthony is a good guy, hopefully, who's going to, I don't know, he might have connections that can help you. He's going to, give you time of day to sit down and chat or whatever. So there's that wealth, there's building, there's all these different categories. And I think when I'm looking at purely the financial piece, yeah, I can look at the numbers and recognize that putting money into the S&P that has historically done 12% or, annually on average over the last 50 years or whatever, like, yeah, that would be a worthwhile investment. But I'm also willing to make the financial sacrifice today in order to pursue something that I think is more enticing in the long run and potentially have higher upside. in the long run too.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, like with running your own business, there is a tremendous opportunity for upside.
Mm-hmm.
There's not as much upside if you have a more traditional career. And, you know, and the other thing too is like my buddy, he's just a little bit older than me. He's been working, you know, 10 years in the workplace. And he just did like the simple calculation of, is my bump in pay, software engineer as well, is my bump in pay, you know, keeping up with inflation? He's making less money today than he did when he first started 10 years ago.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality of it, though.
That's the reality.
That's the reality. But I think, yes, I hear what you're saying. To go back to my point, originally, is that because you were saying why you were talking to boomers and you were saying, well, why sacrifice your whole youth and all this stuff to maybe reach this thing? Like, what's the point of what's the point of planning for the future?
Yeah,
kind of what you were getting at, and it all depends on how much money you're making. In my opinion,
I think that saying why plan for the future is like a bit reductive.
Okay.
Because it's not that I don't think you should plan for the future. What I can't wrap my head around, and this might just be my own, you know, my own personality or, you know, brain, is it's very difficult for me to aim towards a sure, shitty future compared to, or even not shitty, but mediocre future. I would much rather aim towards an unsure, potentially exciting, I don't even know what it looks like, but I know that in this direction, there's something a little bit more spicy and enticing. That is something I can orient myself around to much more easily than I can orient myself towards a known mediocre future.
Sure. And it all depends on where you are in life to be able to do that. I personally am capable of doing this because of the early sacrifices that I made. Instead of going on like crazy vacations with friends, I socked that money away. Instead of being able to afford an apartment in Manhattan, which I could have done when I was working at any of my tech jobs, I lived an hour out on the L train in a room with 4 other roommates. And I spent $700 a month on that. And like, those were sacrifices that I made, even though I could have, you know, easily afforded other stuff. But doing that is what enabled me to do what I'm doing now.
Totally. And here's a little framing I'll plant, which I think what it comes down to is investment. Right? You chose to invest in yourself at a young age through a job with a stable salary where you could every single month understand what is the delta between what I need to survive and what I want to put away for some future risk I may take. Which is what we're seeing today.
Yes. And
I think that if that which was also my mentality when I first graduated college, it was like, I want to start. Well, actually, when I first graduated college, I also did a startup, was not making any money, was just, you know, working at a brewery to pay the bills. So there wasn't much that was saved. But then once I got my first like real salaried corporate, you know, 9-to-5 desk job, that's when I was like, okay, great. I'm going to be able to save, because there was like, what if in the future I want to do something risky? So I put away money, and then I also, I switched jobs. I switched from PMing to software engineering, just shy of tripled my salary basically overnight. Did not adjust my spending habits at all, just put more money into savings, and which has been a great choice. But then I realized, okay, I don't know what I want to invest in terms of taking like a business risk or an entrepreneurial risk. But I did know I wanted to invest in myself. And that's when I stepped away from that job and took time off to travel. And so that was the decision of like, all right, I don't really know where I want to take my life from like a professional perspective, if you will. But I knew I wanted to invest in myself in some way. And that was a little bit more like exploration and travel and gaining what I was hoping is like wisdom and worldliness and global experience. So I think we're aligned in that what it comes down to is when you're in a chapter of your life where you are content with what you're doing, you may not know what the goal is in the future, no one knows what the future holds, but all right, I'm really happy with where I am today. I want to, save. I have this amazing opportunity of having a stable income. I have this amazing opportunity of having this delta, whether it's this big or this big between my income and my expenses. I am going to stockpile and save.
Yep.
Wonderful space to be in.
Yep.
And then once you're in a place where whether or not you have any money stockpiled, but once you have that, like an external driver, of being fired or, with a severance, or an internal driver of, I just want to stop doing this shit and chase a moonshot, you have the luxury to pursue that. And okay, I'm ready to actually take the plunge and do this thing.
Yeah.
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 What has been the biggest lesson that you've learned from entrepreneurship that you didn't learn in a corporate environment?
This is going to sound really weird because I'm sure a lot of people are going to say this, how easy it is to get started. I think a lot of people hem and haw about, I was saying earlier in the conversation, I was hemming and hawing about knocking on somebody's door and talking to them. But then I did it and I was like, oh, that was easy. I think people get really caught up in overanalyzing. And, I've watched tons of people online, like Cody Sanchez is a great example. I'm sure you've watched some of her stuff. She talks about boring businesses all the time. And she breaks down the numbers, and she like loves when people just start, like with what they have in their house and go and perform some task. And then it just snowballs after that. Right? That's essentially what I did. I think people get too invested in like, is this thing going to be perfect? Am I going to do something? Am I going to put myself out there and then somebody's going to judge me or whatever? And, which is definitely a fear, but I don't think it's at the end of the day, it doesn't flip and matter.
Yeah.
Because you still have to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if this random person that you meet is going to think it's stupid or not. Now you get enough of that, it may change your mind about your marketing material or whatever, or how you're presenting yourself. But that's all just learning. That's not you as an individual just going out and trying to do something for yourself puts you way ahead than anybody else. Most people in this world. Most people think they need a job. They think they don't want to invest in themselves. They're like afraid of doing anything outside of the norm. But just having the ability or desire or want and then trying it puts you light years ahead of other people. And the investing in yourself is one of the most important things you can do. For sure. I have not had one outcome where I've invested in myself and it turned out poorly. Ever. How easy it is to start. It's literally just starting and just doing it. It's the easiest thing, but it's also the hardest thing because you have to get over your own mental hangups.
Yeah.
And then after that, it'll be tough at first because you won't be pulling in the money that you want, but it'll snowball and then you'll eventually succeed. So much of it comes down to people who give up and people who persist. And there's definitely a point, don't get me wrong, where you should give up. If you're trying for months and months and months and there's literally no movement in any positive direction, I'm not saying you have to make money in those months and months and months, but there's just no movement at all. You're reaching out to people, nobody's responding. Yeah, maybe it's not the right thing for you. But it doesn't mean that entrepreneurship isn't the right thing for you. It may just mean that particular thing that you were trying to do is not the right thing for you. Which I'm sure you and I myself have been through a lot of that, trying different things and not working, and then you move on to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. I think experimentation is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And, I've never seen anyone get anything right the first time with a business, whether it's you could sort of argue that, like, I think Amazon kind of nailed it with selling books online, but like they knew that was going to be just an avenue or into
everything else.
Yeah, everything else. Mm-hmm. Right. It's simple but not easy, right? Like starting is a simple concept, you know where to go, but it's hard from a motivational, energetic perspective of like getting out of the fucking couch and doing it.
Getting rejected. It's hard to get over being rejected. Well, that's what 99% of life is rejection.
Yeah.
Sooner you can get past being afraid of being rejected, the sooner you'll succeed.
Have you had any rejections with the current business that have really like set you back? Have you felt set back, or do you feel like you're able to take them all in stride?
I think when I was trying to figure out pricing and I was just like, nothing was working. Like, yeah, like I got rejected once or twice. And then it started making me question, is my pricing right? Am I going to make enough money doing this? All that stuff. But then you get your first customer and then you're like, oh, okay, let's see what happens. And then you get the next one. And then everyone's been referring me to everybody, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, you don't know. You don't know until it starts working.
Mm-hmm.
And then every micro adjustments, right? I shifted my prices down $5, from what I was thinking they should have been, which was fine. Like I'm okay with taking a little bit of a hit first year in order to build up a customer base and a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And then next year I'll change that. It's the part of the price of starting something.
Yeah.
But to go like micro adjustments are important. You can't just be so hard set on something. You got to be really flexible. And coming from the tech world, we're talking about agile methodology. If you don't know what it is, read up on it. There's a great book called The Lean Startup.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about proving the concept with as little investment and work as possible. And then once you prove the concept, then you actually make it real. But proving the concept means a lot of small adjustments in order to make sure it works. So the more small and agile you can be, the better. With lawn care, I'm still using my Ego mower, my home mower. I upgraded my blower because I had all electric equipment, and I was running up into a issue where I can only hit 3 people's yards before I had to go home and recharge everything. So I identified what was taking up the most battery, which was a blower, and I got a gas version of that. And that was my first actual business expense besides a website and some door hangers.
Yeah.
And my t-shirts.
Yeah.
Which, I started up this business with like $400.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So is it fair to say it matters less that you get it right and matters more that you try and figure out what is right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like you have to get it right eventually.
Yes.
But you will get it right through trial and error.
Yes.
So eliminate the fear that you're going to get it wrong the first time because you
definitely will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You definitely will.
Yeah.
And you'll get it wrong many times.
Yeah.
And then eventually it'll just start working because you'll do all these micro adjustments about how you talk to somebody, what you say, maybe a slight price adjustment. And and how friendly you are, or you talk to somebody and you automatically know it's not going to go well with them, so you're just oh, okay, and you move on quickly, you just get over it. And yeah, it's all about these micro adjustments in order to get to a spot that is really working for you.
Yeah. So do you have like a long-term vision? Can you kind of paint me a picture of what you want this business to become?
Sure. Yeah. I want this to be a multi-location, multi-state type of thing. I'd love for it to be a franchise. There are only a couple franchises in the lawn care world. I don't see why I couldn't do it. I spent a lot of my career building systems and building brands and building user experiences. So I sit in a pretty good place in order to develop all those things, which is essentially what a franchise is. It's a brand and systems. And then you sell somebody the right to use that brand and systems in their own location. All right. So eventually I'd like to get there. I'm hoping I can get there in a couple of years. And then for me, I'd like to, continue learning everything that I can, but also sitting back and enjoying the fruits of the labor.
You sound like someone who is very much a bit of a long-term thinker. Like you're willing to make a short-term sacrifice for a long-term objective of yours.
Yes.
Have you seen that pay dividends in a different way with respect to entrepreneurship compared to corporate life? Do you feel like that mentality has helped you or hurt you in the entrepreneurial world?
Well, I think it helps.
Okay.
I think anytime, yeah, because you have to start off small,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to make some sacrifices in order to build something. And but I also think that part of it's just my mindset. I don't think that everybody has there's a lot of people who just want to make what they want to make, 100,000, 200,000, whatever. And then that's it. And they don't want to think about it anymore. And they're going to do what they're going to do in order to get to that position. I don't think that way. I think in terms of like scalability and making things bigger and making more money. Not that I need all the money in the world. I don't need to be another like Elon Musk, he's going to be the only one who's that rich for a very long time, I'm sure. But like at the end of the day, if I can get to a net worth of $5 million, I'll be set, and I won't need to do anything anymore. And then I can just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Which is my goal. I want to get there. Because at that point, you were talking about 10% returns, S&P, 4% rule. Essentially what that means is you just take 4% out of your brokerage account every year and it still grows, but you can live off of that 4% because you're still making 6%. Mm-hmm. And like 4% on $5 million is like $200K or something like that. So if I can get to that point sometime in the relative future, I am more than happy to just stop. Mm-hmm. Just sell whatever I need to sell, enjoy my life with my daughter or my wife if we have another kid, go on vacations. Basically, we can do whatever we want to do. Mm-hmm. I don't need anything else than that. So that's the goal. The goal is to franchise in order to get to a certain monetary amount that we have in mind, and then just enjoy life.
Yeah.
Go fly fishing a lot.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Why do you think we have this concept of growth for the sake of growth has come up in conversations recently? And it seems like the world is dominated by people who just see growth as a positive. Just intrinsically growth is good. I don't understand that. I'm not sure I understand why there's so much emphasis on growth. Mm. Now, there are certain forms of growth I think are intrinsically good. Personal growth, I don't think you should ever stop growing as a human being. Mm. Financial growth, that's something that seems interesting, that on a macro level, we are a country oriented pretty much solely around GDP growth. That the number that is the North Star. There's nothing else that matters in the US than economic growth, seemingly. In individuals, it seems like there's particularly economic financial growth. There's just a intrinsic understanding that growth is good. You do not seem to adhere to that methodology. You understand that there's a cap. Why? Why do you think that there's growth is not intrinsically good? Why do you think that why do you want to have a cap and not just continue growing in perpetuity?
Because I don't need it. You know? It's not that I don't think growth is bad, because growth is good.
Why is growth good?
Well, it shows that you're moving in a positive direction as opposed to a negative direction. Because, I mean, before the U.S. was a global currency, there were, I don't know, there was like 20 other ones. I don't even know how many. There was a ton. And all of those countries have like peaked and then started going down. And then obviously everybody in that country is not doing as well as they would have been. So, I mean, it's the same in corporations, same anywhere. So growth is good because it shows that you're doing well as a economy, as a country, as a company, whatever, as an individual.
Yeah, but growth isn't sustainable in perpetuity. It has never been in the course of history. There's always been growth and then a collapse, growth and then a collapse. So I guess I understand that growth, you know, you don't want to see an economic downturn, but it also seems that the only possible outcome from growth is a downturn. Whereas if there's something that's more sustainable, right? If sustainability were the North Star as opposed to growth, it seems like that would, in the long run, be a far more optimal solution than growth, because growth has and will always lead to a shrinkage, and usually a very abrupt shrinkage. I'm still confused why growth is seen as a positive. Like I get that, like, growth, yes, it means up, and up means plus, and down means minus. I guess I'm just not really, I'm still a little confused why, like, that is sort of just inherently a good thing and what we should aim for.
And the other thing I can think of is maybe it has to do something with population growth. Well, you know, you look at Japan.
Yeah.
They're headed. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not.
Their population, the amount of young people have is collapsing.
And they're, not only is their population declining pretty abruptly, it's also consolidating to the major cities, namely Tokyo, and Kyoto too, a little bit, and other small, like, I'm sure Sapporo is getting more concentration, but like, they're literally giving away homes and land to foreigners.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I mean, that's not a great thing. At least for the Japanese economy, that's not great.
But if your population isn't growing anymore, or at least sustaining itself, then your economy collapses, because the amount of working people that you have can't support the amount of retired or older people that need the support. And then, yeah. So how do you sustain that? There's a fine line between growth and decline.
Yeah.
And keeping things sustained means everything has to be going, like, really has to have a very specific route. It's very, you know, growth is like there's a million routes between here and here. Sustainability, there's only one thing. And then decline, there's a million things between here and here. So maybe growth is just easier to imagine than sustainability, because so many things have to go right with sustaining something as is.
Right. And like, it isn't sustainable if you have a population that's growing, but an economy that's shrinking. Right. So like, if part of the sustainability is also keeping up with whatever, growth you're experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If your population is growing, but your economy isn't, then you're spreading less resources over more people.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's happening right now with just people being super greedy.
Right.
Up top.
Did you see what, I forget his name, the CEO of Anthropic said just a couple of days ago, that it's likely we're going to experience the first time that there is an increase in unemployment and an increase in GDP.
I believe that.
That's crazy. That's terrifying.
Well, Andrew Yang was saying that they should tax AI workers and not human employees.
Ooh, interesting. Or at least not, up to some income bracket of workers. Yeah.
Whatever the details are.
Yeah,
but
whoa. Okay.
But the point of taxes is to discourage you from doing something.
Right.
So if you want to discourage people from losing their jobs, tax AI.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could be a good idea.
Yeah, it could be. Wild. All of these things are just, they're also enticing in, conversations like this. And then in the real world, everything just has these wild unintended consequences that no one can foresee.
Mm-hmm.
It's so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think has been the best piece of advice that you've experienced in your entire, I would say mostly your career, that you feel like you've been able to leverage through the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship?
In software engineering or in your career in general, it's always about learning your next thing, right? It's the same thing in business. Or being a company owner. You're always learning. I'm sure that's not as an exciting answer as you were hoping for, but I think it's that simple.
Yeah, totally. And last question I'll ask for you is, do you have any advice for people who are interested in delving into the entrepreneurial world, starting something of their own, chasing a passion? What would you share for those people?
Surround yourself with people who are also doing that. When I first moved here to Colorado, it was about 3.5 years ago now, pretty shortly after I joined some entrepreneurial groups in the neighborhood. And that really gets you in the mindset. And it doesn't happen overnight. You just start becoming friends with these people, and then they start talking to you more, and then you get more excited about it, and then eventually you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try something. I don't even know what the saying is, but like you are.
Oh, like you're the sum of the 5.
You're the sum of the 5 people, like closest around you. So if you surround yourself with people who are just sitting on their butts smoking weed and playing video games, I mean, then that's what you're going to do. If you want to start a business, get involved in those communities.
Wonderful. So if anyone needs some lawn care, where do they go? Tell us where to find you.
Cashew'sLawnCare.com. But you have to be in Denver.
Yeah.
And more specifically, the west side of Denver.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, John.
Thank you for having me. I hope this was a good conversation.
It was.
Cool.
Yeah.